What's happening, guys? It is the 9th of April. So getting deeper into the month. And I'm gonna spend really just kind of quick run here, piggybacking off of what we talked about last week, which has to do with the jobs report. And what we talked about with Patrick. And I did a little more, I reread a few times that article that was put out talking about how the Philly Fed admits that payroll is overstated by a significant amount. And as you start getting into the data of this article, pretty wild to look, where they're saying that gap opened up in March of 2022 from what was reported to what was reality. We start really analyzing and then doing the multiple different types of surveys that they do. You start to see there was about a $1.5 million job gap just in the first quarter of 2022. But since then, it's continued to spread based upon what they've explained and what reality is. So I'm going to show you these two charts here so you can see what I'm talking about. Very, very interesting thought process here. But this was March of 2022, and that gap that happened in the first, from the gap opened, and then, in the first quarter of 2022. Now, this is that same part where the gap opened up. Now it looks to be about a 5 million job gap. That's significant. That's insane. 5 million jobs. Now, I think part of the job scenario here that is continuing to add to this bigger and widening gap has to do with how they're reporting the workers versus the jobs themselves. And so if we're looking at workers, that's probably, I would say, probably the thing we need to look at most is those who are actually employed, not how many jobs are being done, but those who are employed. We have people doing 2 and 3 jobs. We have, we started looking at social media, people complaining, I'm going to say complaining, but giving an idea of their scenario, working multiple jobs, some of them making triple, quadruple the minimum wage in their area, but yet still can't afford to basically live by themselves. They got to get roommates. They got to be able to, share in costs. Something's really freaking broken here when this is the scenario. They're literally beating us down to that point of submission, saying we will do whatever, fine, don't take everything from me, right? Just stop the bleeding. That kind of feels like where we're at. I'm not saying that that's the case, but it kind of feels like it, and if it feels like it, it might be it. So if you're in a position as a real estate investor to acquire more real estate, continue to finance and get your 30-year fixes and try and hold these things that will be able to continue to rent for that, even if the rents come down a little bit, continue to maintain that. I can't stress enough how much of a benefit it is for you to have that. Now let's take a look at what's going on in the markets, going on with the rates, with all this thing. It's continuing to do exactly as we've been showing, because I've been showing the same trend for a little while now that seems to have been following. And look at it continues to follow that trend. Went down below it. What did it do? Come back above it. It's going to keep following this. I believe we're going to keep following this trend all the way down. We're going to continue to work our way down into the dirt until such time that we get low enough that we might see some jump. Now, here we have one of these scenarios where it went low enough, we got to jump, right? Went low enough, it jumped right up. We might get the exact same movement down here. What's really interesting, if you look at this movement, it's kind of mirroring itself, but going downward. It's a downward mirror. So something to consider that I think we might continue to see this jump, right? Goes down, jumps up. We're going to probably see this take quite the beating and then come back and continue to follow this downward trend. If it does that, I'm not saying it will, but that's what I anticipate. Just a price action on this. It's like skipping a rock across the pond and to continue to jump and jump until it just settles down, probably drops to the bottom. I don't see it jumping straight up unless we have significant amount of capital flooding in to move it. You have to have some sort of external force to lift up, just like picking the rock up out of the pond. An external force, call that the Federal Reserve, reached in, picked the rock up out of the pond for 13 years and carried it. That's what happened here. And I'll just show you what that looks like, because that is the only way that you saw interest rates come below what they would have been as far as what the market would have dictated. So you have all the way back here, 2008. This is when the Federal Reserve picked up the rock, carried it around, went ahead and tossed it, skipping, and may settle down to the bottom of the pond. Way down in here, somewhere is where I believe the bottom of the pond is. If that is the case, our interest rates, as far as a real estate investor can be, back up in the double digits, or high eights with points. They're not going to go into double digits. They're going to go high eights with points. That's what I see is going to end up happening. That's my anticipation. If you're thinking it's going to be other than that, you might be putting yourself at pretty significant risk. there's also chance, right? Even if it does go down, you lock the rate today, you just refinance later. So don't sit here and wait. The cost of housing is just going to go up. So I appreciate you guys. I'm going to keep reiterating and giving much what data I've got to be able to try and reinforce where we think it's going. And if I see something that's going to be different, I'll report that too. I'd love to be able to say, hey, it looks like it's going to get better, but I don't know that we're going to get there. I'll talk to you on Tuesday.